of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, denounces the discredit campaign from the United States and expresses that the protests are due to a foreign plan to annexations against the country. The head of Presidential Security of Haiti, Dimitri Gerard, is expected to testify to the prosecutor's office to clarify his action during the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. In China, the number of deaths due to the collapse of the hotel increased to 17. Hello, welcome to TeleSUR English. I am Denise Herrera and this is from the South. The president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, in the Roundtable program expressed that the United States blockade cuts the economic resources and the country's requires and that depend on in industries such as tourism and productive sectors for the generation of foreign exchange.
We were able to develop an investor in tourism who empowered us a group of tourist pools in the country that give us significant foreign exchange income to support other activities, developed investment processes that favored productive processes, which serve to supply goods and services to the population and also to increase our import staff and free measures of Trump administration cut all the sources of income or that fostered those opportunities and potentialities that we have been developing. In the way we had to deal with the special period, we developed programs for example, oil extraction, oil production, and therefore, today, a significant part or the basic part of our electrical generation is mounted in thermoelectric plants that consume national crude. We are capable of self-sufficient national crude.
Likewise, the Cuban president indicated that the protests are due to a foreign plan against the country.
Well, the riots, I'd say they've been involved. I don't think it's an exact classification, but they can be distinguished. First, an annexationist participation, people who respond to a foreign plan that are irreconcilably opposed to the Cuban Revolution, who don't think like Cubans. Think under the design of the empire, that when they make a gesture against Cuba, when they make a provocation, when they take a part in an action, they don't go to a Cuban flag, they go to an American flag, and there are pictures these days of which they have been presenting that this image are the annexationists with the North American flag.
After the media campaign launched by the Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez on Tuesday, the government urged the Cuban people to remain calm. In this context, Cuban families have come out to demand solidarity, love, peace, social security, and tranquility as one of their most precious goods. Citizens have stated that despite the media outlawed through the networks, the streets of several provinces remain calm. They also expressed that they will seek to focus on a struggle for life, for well-being, and for citizens' peace. The Prime Minister of San Vicente and the Grenadines, Rolf Gonsalves, showed his solidarity with the Cuban in regards to the events that took place in the island and issued a statement on Cuba's remarkable and enduring revolution. The Prime Minister stated that the protests in Cuba, which were fueled by unlawful imperialistic economic sanctions, bring into focus the remarkable achievements of the Cuban people and the revolution despite the monumental challenges, and highlighted the island's milestone and producing at least 2 vaccines against the COVID-19. He rejected the attempts of certain forces who seek to make the Cuban people prisoners of presidential and senatorial political of Florida Leslie. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro was hospitalized after experiencing abdominal pain early Wednesday morning. The president was admitted to the Armed Forces Hospital in Brasilia due to the situation. The president's agenda was cancelled, which included a meeting with representatives of the Senate who are investigating the alleged acts of corruption by the government with regard to the purchase of vaccine against COVID-19 as well as the management of the pandemic. The head of state suffers from his medical condition at a time when social demonstrations against his administration multiplied and demanded his resignations, as well as economic assistance to counteract the effects of the coronavirus. In Colombia, the murder of Marcos Tenorio Soto, an indigenous leader of the NASA community located on the department of Tolima, has been confirmed. Marcos was found this Tuesday near the village of Santiago Perez in the municipality of Ataco, located in the department of Tolima. The 30-year-old farmer had been reported missing since last June 25. The Regional Indigenous Council of Cauca demands the President Iván Duque clarify the events and stop the extermination of the indigenous peoples. According to the Institute of Development and Peace Studies, in the past, 92 social and human rights leaders have been assassinated in 2021 and more than 1,000 since the signing of the peace agreements. In Peru, authorities of the National Bureau of Election guarantee they will be presenting a president to the country before July 28. In a televised interview, the spoken woman of the organization, Luis Alberto Sanchez, reiterated the commitment of the National Bureau of Elections and all its offices in fulfill the institution's object, which is to have a president before the end of July. He also pointed out that the exact date of the proclamation will depend on whether or not appeals are filed, the number of appeals and the reason behind them. In such sense, he pointed out that the National Bureau of Election continues to work checking those appeals in order not to exceed the established deadlines. In Argentina, the registration of political alliances for the primary elections to be held in September 12 has been made official. The eyes are on two leading coalitions, Everybody's Front and Opposition Coalition Together for Change. Besides defending their candidates for the parliamentary elections on November 14, the process requires the political forces to reveal their strategy to obtain the victory. Due to their electoral importance, Buenos Aires, Córdoba, and Santa Fe are key districts for the configuration of the forces in the next parliamentary period. Political organizations are expected to focus their efforts in these areas. In the November elections, 127 national deputies and 24 seats in the Argentine Senate will be elected. Well, take a short break now, don't go away. Welcome back. In Haiti, the head of presidential security, Dimitri Herald, is expected to testify to a prosecutor's office to clarify his actions during the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. According to the prosecutor before court, who is in charge of the investigation of the assassination, two other members of the presidential security should have testified already this Thursday. However, those summoned did not show up, since they are still waiting for the general inspection of the police to respond to the request presented by the prosecutor's office to issue the permits required by the members of the security corps to testify. The threats of international plots to assassinate Haiti's president point to Florida as the epicenter of the Colombian anti-Cuban, anti-Venezuelan right-wing extremist connections.
The epicenter of the international connections of the Haitian assassination plot is in the Doral, a suburb on the outskirts of Miami, where the counter-terrorist unit security company has its headquarters. Since 2019, this company is registered in Florida as a provider of customized security products and services to clients worldwide.
El señor Capador, uno de los que está muerto, pero se les ofreció $2,700 mensuales. Le pregunté un día, amor, ¿cómo se llama la empresa? Y él me mandó unas siglas que son CTU.
The CTU security president Antonio Emmanuel Intriago Valera is a Venezuelan immigrant who promotes himself as a mercenary and special forces coordinator, as reported by the New Herald. On his website, he offers security consulting, protection equipment, armaments, self-defense training, shooting classes, and uniforms and boots like those worn by the mercenaries detained in Haiti. The public records of Intriago's companies are revealing. In his company, We Are All Venezuela, one of his partners is a man who promised to bomb the Cuban Revolution. He is Antonio J. Esquivel, president of the Cuban Patriotic Junta, an organization that tried to assassinate Fidel Castro on several occasions. In social networks, the CTU security mercenary appears with Ileana Ross Lehtinen, a Cuban-American citizen and former Republican congresswoman from Florida. Despite the graphic evidence, she now says she does not remember even the slightest part of the person in this photo. From Colombia, the compromising images are also denied. The presidential house vows that the photograph featuring Ivan Duque and Tony Intriago was just the result of an unsuspecting greeting that occurred during the presidential campaign in Miami in 2018. In 2015, Intriago promoted the idea that Venezuela could be part of the United States, just as it happened with Crimea was annexed to Russia. Various sources claim that CTU Security also offered its services for Operation Gideon, which was signed by opposition politician Juan Guaidó and was aimed at overthrowing, kidnapping, or assassinating Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro in May 2020. This terrorist operation was executed by Silver Corps USA, another Florida-based company that worked with mercenaries trained in Colombia by a former agent of Donald Trump's security corps.
Nicaragua's Supreme Electoral Council continued to develop the electoral schedule for the general elections to held in November. The electoral body is currently carrying out the process of submitting the forms for the presentation and registration of the candidates by the political parties and Paris Alliance. Between July 28 and August 2, the entity will receive the proposal for the positions on President, Vice President, and deputies to the National Assembly. Around 100 public positions will be contested in the November 6th, including elections 20 deputies to the Central American Parliament. More story coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In China, Sohu local authorities reported that the number of the deaths due to the collapse of the hotel increased to 17. An uninjured person, 5 were taken to the hospital, and at least 23 were rescued from the rubble of the Kaiyuan Hotel on the collapse on Monday afternoon in Suzhou City. Its China local authorities reported that more than 600 volunteers and 120 vehicles were mobilized in the area of rescue operations. Likewise, they said the causes of the collapse will be investigated. In South Africa, after 6 days of intense looting and violence, food and gasoline shortages began to threaten the population. Long lines formed in front of the service stations, especially around Durban and Johannesburg, a largest refinery in the country, announces the closure by force majority of its station that supplies about a third of the fuel consumed in the country. A spokesman for the Automobile Association said fuel shortages will be unavailable in the coming days. For his part, the Zulu King described the looting and vandalism as form of suicide committed by those who claim the fighting for the liberation of the former President Jacob Zuma, and that so far the social destabilization affects other poorest sectors. At least 72 people have died since the beginning of the social explosion. In Iraq, 92 people lost their lives and 110 were injured after the fire in a hospital in the Iraqi city of Nasiriyah. The fire started on an isolation ward where patients infected with COVID-19 were in Al Hussein Hospital, Nasiriyah city. The Car governorate did a second such incident in less than 3 months, following a similar fire in the hospital in the Baghdad capital last April 24 as a result of the explosion of the oxygen cylinder. The Iraq government announced the initiation of an investigation to determine the causes of the event. Citizens pointed to the mismanagement of the local government and responsible for the fact. The governments of the United States and Russia will hold talks on a strategic nuclear stability. According to the Russian authorities, the meeting between the representatives of the two governments will take place within a week. The meeting is part of the agreements reached between Presidents Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden at the summit held last month in Geneva. On this occasion, Moscow plans to discuss with Washington about types of weapons, including nuclear and non-nuclear, as well as defensive ones, which, in the Kremlin's opinion, can affect global strategic stability. The United Nations Migration Agency reported that the death tolls of migrants trying to reach Europe doubled this semester. The figures were published by the International Organization of Migration, with note that at least 1,100 people died at sea trying to reach Europe at the first semester of 2021. During the same period, at least 250 migrants died at sea while trying to reach the Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. In contrast, 113 people died during the first quarantine of 2020, which represents a significant increase of almost twice as much as last year. Some towns in eastern Belgium saw their streams turn into hashing rivers, and a storm caused heavy flooding across part of the western and central Europe. The Belgian Meteorological Institute set an red alert for the sun around Liege, some 100 kilometers east of Brussels on Wednesday, and is expected more rain in a day than the area would normally get at all summer months. Several towns were thought to reach because of the flooding in the region. Cars piled on top and other cereals were flooded, but no serious injuries were reported. Authorities in the Netherlands also warned the heavy rainfall in the southern province of Limburg could turn the streams into dangerously fast, slowly torrents, and urged the public to stay away from them. In France, police repressed an anti-vaccine protest in Paris demanding the resignation of President Emmanuel Macron. Hundreds of protesters opposed the immunization against the COVID-19 pandemic were repressed by riots agents in the vicinity of the Republic Square in the capital when they protested against the sanitary restrictions imposed by the Emmanuel Macron government. Citizens reported they were attacked by the tear gas. Groups of police cordoned off several main streets leading to the center of Paris, where the state establishments are located. The number of the protesters arrested and injured during the repression is unknown. We have come to the end of this new brief. You can find this and many other stories on our site, TeleSUR. And join us in social media. For TeleSUR English, I am Denita Herrera. Thank you for watching.